Breaking right now at 11, we're moments away from President Joe Biden's final publicly scheduled event at this week's APEC summit in San Francisco. A live look inside the Moscone Center. The president is hosting the APEC leaders retreat. During the event, he'll transfer the position of the APEC chair to the Peruvian president, who will host APEC next year. Good morning and thanks for joining us. I'm Laura Garcia.
And I'm Marcus Washington.
Shortly before this event, the president met with Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador.
And Scott McGrew, one subject dominated their meeting.
Yeah, the border. Good morning to you. Migration, the smuggling of people, and fentanyl. All subjects they've talked about before, no doubt we'll have to work on in the future as well. The two sat down about 45 minutes ago. President Biden outlining the agenda they had agreed to. This is the second time the two have met this year. They met in Mexico City back in January.
And I want to thank you, Mr. President, and your team, I really mean it, for the cooperation and your leadership in taking on this challenge. I know it's not easy.
Cities all over America have been overwhelmed with migrants, many coming not from Mexico, but through Mexico from Venezuela. President Biden has been calling on Congress for new border funding and new immigration laws. In fact, that was a major part of his inauguration speech, but Congress has not made major changes to U.S. immigration law since the 80s. And of course, it isn't just people. Fentanyl has been a huge strain on American cities. We've seen that in San Francisco. President Biden discussed fentanyl with Chinese President Xi earlier this week in Woodside. China makes many of the precursor chemicals for synthetic fentanyl. President Biden told President Obrador from Mexico there were things that he had discussed with the Chinese president that he would like to speak with the Mexican president about in private about fentanyl and the drug trade. We expect Mr. Biden to head to SFO after the meeting that you're talking about and return to the East Coast just after 1 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, it's been a very busy week.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, in the meantime, Dr. Jill Biden is in the midst of hosting a program for spouses of APEC leaders. That event taking place at Apple Park campus down in Cupertino. The main focus is conversation on mental health facilitated by U.S. Surgeon General. Dr. Biden began the event by speaking about how important it is to be open and public with our mental health conversations.
Too often these issues are hidden, swept under the rug and ignored. But when we bring them out into the light, when we talk about them openly like we will today, we can begin to heal.
That program got underway at 9:30 this morning.
Today also means one last day of potential traffic headaches in the city.
NBC Bay Area traffic anchor Mike Inouye is helping us navigate around those trouble spots.
Yeah, the APEC summit continues, and we still have one more day with the enhanced security on the Bay Bridge, still down one lane into and out of San Francisco, ending tonight. We still have the off and on-ramp closures for 5th and 4th Street also, but those should be clearing by 9 p.m. tonight again. And as dignitaries are leaving the city and heading south to SFO, perhaps that might conflict with fans heading to Chase Center for the concert tonight. It's Ms. Lauryn Hill and the Fugees. Public transit is still a great alternate, even with the many reroutes. And the security lockdown around the Moscone and Nob Hill, they should get a little less restrictive tomorrow as world leaders wrap up their business in the Bay Area this weekend.
Well, any way you look at it, between the meetings, the motorcades, road closures, like Mike was just talking about, and those protests, this was an eventful week at APEC.
NBC Bay Area's Ginger Conejero Saab has been at the summit all week. She has a look back at some of the highlights.
President Biden has been in San Francisco for a jam-packed 4 days, filled with bilateral meetings and new agreements, including that historic one on the sidelines of the summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday. The leaders coming to an agreement about fentanyl trafficking and open lines of military communication. There was a fundraiser, red carpet dinners, motorcades throughout the city, and protests along road closures. But at the center of this week was the president's message to collaborate with the world's most dynamic economies.
Together, we can harness the power of the Pacific to grow our economies, to uplift our workers, to protect our planet, to connect our people to one another in the future of greater prosperity and dignity for all.
Last night, the president signed a temporary spending bill pushing back the threat of a government shutdown until next year. The president will leave San Francisco before 1:30 this afternoon. Before that, his Secretary of State, Secretary Blinken, will wrap up here at APEC with a news conference just over an hour from now. In San Francisco, Conejero, Saab, NBC Bay Area News.